Yeah, I think one of the mistakes that new agents make,
What are you calling for? Knowing your why. Like, why are you doing it? Because it's hard.
if they're not already close to a transaction, I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, if you're calling a stranger cold, they're not going to know you, like you, or trust you. They're going to know of you.
90% of those have come from prospecting directly from REDX leads. So, Ken, answer this question for me. What do you think the most important skill for a brand new real estate agent to have would be?
I think the most important skill is really what are you calling for? Knowing your why. Like, why are you doing it? Because it's hard. You're going to get that breakthrough, you're going to be 6 months in before you actually break through that barrier and start getting business from what you're doing, or maybe 3 months in, right? It's a 90-day cycle. So I think one, knowing why you're doing it and realizing you're going to have to push through for the next few months before you actually get a transaction is the number one skill. Patience. Number two skill is scripts. What are you going to say to people? And not just a script. We talk about this. We teach this a lot. When you have a script, don't go and say, oh, this one's better, and start shopping around scripts day after day after day. Just stick with one, see how people react to it, and from there, adjust your script.
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes that new agents make is they're too quick to change direction before having a large enough data set to know whether or not something works, right?
Yeah.
So scripts is a really good example. There's lots of great scripts out there, but if you don't give your script enough time to work, you'll never know if it's a great script.
Yeah.
And too many new agents will flip from one thing to the next, and they'll go, oh, well, I used that script today and it didn't work. And I used this one yesterday and it didn't work. And I used this one the day before and it didn't work. So none of those scripts work. When in reality, if they would give it 5,000 phone calls using that script, they'd be able to go, okay, this script works. And on a different 5,000 calls, this one works better.
Yeah.
But you have to give it that. I think that one of the mistakes that they make, and this isn't necessarily a skill that new agents need, but they have to be willing to mentally commit to something long enough to see the results. And most new agents don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, and that goes back to, can you be patient for 3 months? So number one skill, again, is just patience and knowing. So I did door-to-door sales one time, and you're going to sell 100 accounts and make $100,000 over the summer. Well, nobody told me I had to go knock on 100 doors every day and talk to 100 people in order to accomplish that. So kind of the same thing. You can make a lot of money in this business, but you have to be consistently doing it and patiently doing it for months on end. I think one of the biggest mistakes that agents make as well, we talked about this today in a class that we were doing, 10% of how we communicate is through words.
Yeah.
The other 90% is through body language and tonality. Well, what do agents not practice? They'll practice scripts all day long, but they don't practice how they're saying it, if they're smiling, if they're using their hands, because as Tony Robbins says, motion creates emotion. So you want to have some emotion behind your scripts. You have to create motion. You have to create body language. If someone's sad, you have to be able to be sad with them.
So one of the coolest things that I've watched people do is set up a camera and record themselves while they're prospecting, right?
Painful.
And it's so hard to do, to go back and watch yourself. It's really difficult. Yeah. It's so uncomfortable. But the value in doing that, if you think of any athletic organization, right? If you think of a pro football team or a collegiate basketball team, what do they do before the big game this weekend? What do they watch and spend time studying? They watch game film.
Yeah.
They watch not only their opponent, but they watch themselves, because when you view your performance from that third party perspective, you see things that you don't normally pick up on. Yep. So you might watch that video and go, oh, you know what? When I'm prospecting on the phone, I think I have a lot of energy. But when you view it on video, you go, oh, I've actually got the personality of a wet sock, right? Like I need to ham it up a little bit in order to be better. But I love the idea that patience is that skill, because I think that lens, that filters into a lot of areas of the business.
I mean, real estate in general is a 90-day cycle. You list a house, you're going to get paid in 90 days. It has to sit on the market for 30 days. has to fall out of market once, go back under contract again, and then a 30-day closing period.
Yeah.
So if you can think in 90-day cycles and you're prospecting every single day, that the problem is someone will prospect for a week, get a couple of deals and be like, oh, I'm set. Well, then they have to restart again 90 days from now, where if they just kept on filling their pipeline after that 90-day cycle is over, every week they're going to start getting paid and closing deals.
Yeah.
So patience and consistency.
Let's talk CRMs for a little bit.
Okay.
Right. One of the big tools that I think every real estate agent has to have is they have to have some tool, some service that will manage your database. Right. Yep. We refer to this often as a CRM. But one of the things that I see people do, and I know that you've seen this as well, is people purchase a CRM and they upload their contacts to it, and then they don't ever go utilize the 95% of the features inside of the CRM that will actually communicate with, nurture, and allow them to actually harvest from that database. And I think that's one of the big mistakes that we make. We think that just because we pay and have the service that it's gonna work for us. And in reality, we have to spend time to put together the campaigns, put together the content, the marketing, and then we have to be proactive about reaching out to people, whether that's through a CRM or otherwise.
A CRM is pretty crucial. I think there's two trains of thought with this. So there are some people that just have a large database of people that know them, like them, trust them. They're networkers. Their network's really tight knit. They're going to stay in touch with them. And they can turn a database of 300 people into 60, 70, 80 deals per year because they leverage it so well, which is kind of that ninja selling, if you've ever read that book, that philosophy.
Yeah.
But most people aren't wired that way and don't have that luxury, which is not necessarily the people we're talking to. Most people have to go out and find the business and start creating relationships, because a database of people that know you, like you, trust you. Well, if you're calling a stranger cold, they're not going to know you, like you, or trust you. They're going to know of you. So how do you stay top of mind? You have to have a good system that sits there and drips on them, constantly reminding them that you're in real estate. And that's what a good CRM does, is it has systems that will drip on a monthly, weekly, social media, whatever it is, just so you can stay top of mind.
Yeah. Agreed. Let's talk about dialers for a second.
Okay.
Can you imagine your career in real estate without a dialer?
No. I brought this example up in that class again today, is if your job was to dig holes, you can dig holes with your hands. You can dig holes with a spoon. You can dig holes with a shovel. There's many ways to dig holes, but if you want to be good at your job of digging holes, you buy a tractor, right? Right. And same thing with real estate. If your job is to make phone calls, well, yeah, I can call people. I can by hand. I can send out a carrier pigeon to drop on their door.
Smoke signal.
There's a lot of ways to communicate with people, but a triple line dialer or even a single line dialer just helps you to communicate with so many people so much faster. Your job in real estate is to create connections and to talk to as many people as possible. The more people you talk to about real estate, the more business you're going to do.
We love to overcomplicate things. And so I've had several conversations lately with other agents who they're so inside their head that it prevents them from executing on things. I finally, in these few conversations, I just said, look, your job is to find people that you don't know and turn them into people that you do know. Like that's your role as a prospector, as a real estate professional. If we want to grow our business, we have to find people that we don't know and we have to turn them into people that we do know. And if that's the goal of prospecting, I want to talk to as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time that I can. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Right. Which means, am I going to dial by hand where every time I set my cell phone down and then look at the next lead, I've got to re-engage? Or do I want to put blinders on like a horse that force me to look forward and stay focused and be ready for the next call at any given moment? I definitely want the latter. I want to stay focused, because I'm like most people where I get distracted. And if I pick my phone up to make a call and I see a notification, I'm going to click on the notification.
100%.
Right? And I'm going to allow myself to get distracted.
Yep.
That's why I love a dialer. Not only is it fast, it forces you to stay focused and on task.
That's why I like REDX's dialer Wave, because it gives you the option. You don't have to pick up your phone. There's other dialers out there that are equally as good, but you have to pick up your phone, connect into them, and operate it through your phone. Wave, I can just operate the whole thing through my computer.
Right.
I can set my phone out of the office, never have to look at it for the 4 hours. Now, I'm not that disciplined, but I have that option with Wave.
Yeah. Let's talk about leads for a minute.
Okay.
I saw a stat recently that said in 2023, over 200 million leads were sold to real estate agents. 200 million. Do you know how many transactions we did in 2023?
4.3.
Yeah, 4.3 million or something like that. So you look at the number of leads being sold to real estate agents and then those that actually result in transactions. And there's a huge gap. So lead gen right now and companies providing leads, it's a really muddy conversation to have, because people have this unrealistic expectation of what leads are like. I've told people this many times. I've said, if you give me a REDX account and a cell phone and drop me in any market, I will take listings in 7 days, because I'm going to focus on the people that are closest to a transaction already.
Yep.
Like expireds or for sale by owners or for rent by owners. Those are the people that I'm going to be communicating with, because they've already raised their hand and said, I have a need in real estate. And my job then is to take a person that I don't know, turn them into somebody that I do know by using the tools available to me, like a dialer that we've talked about. But then what I have to do is I have to get on the phone with that person and progress the conversation forward. And if I'm waiting for online buyer leads that have an average conversion of 14 to 24 months, I'm not going to last in real estate. I have to have transactions now to provide for my business now, which means the leads that are out there, if they're not already close to a transaction, I don't want anything to do with them.
Yep.
Agreed.
No, and to that point, tons of leads. I think follow-up's really poor. People are in the dream stage a lot of time with online leads. I mean, even when you're calling circle prospecting, they're in the dream stage. Mm-hmm. If you're there for them during the dream stage, you're probably going to be there when they're in the buy stage or the sell stage, right? So follow-up is super key, but I think a lot of people get leads, they don't follow up, and follow-up is huge with those. I liken it to if you prospect without follow-up is a lot like going to the gym without a good diet.
That's a great analogy.
Because you don't make any headway. Like, you're going to the gym, you're feeling better, you're thinking that you're accomplishing something, but you look back a year later and your business is in the same spot. Your body's in the same spot. Okay,
so you've heard the phrase, you can't out-exercise a poor diet.
Yes.
Right? So what you're saying is you can't out-prospect poor lead follow-up.
100%.
I love it.
So, I mean, if you really think about it, 90% of your transactions are going to come after the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th call.
You've been in real estate. You're in your 6th year and 5 full years in real estate. You've averaged 50 transactions a year. 90% of those have come from prospecting directly from REDX leads. And you're right at the point where you're starting to see your business transition a little bit, right?
Yeah, a lot.
So you're starting to see that repeat and referral business really start to become substantial. But up until now, 90% of your transactions have come from prospecting REDX leads. Ballpark guess, how many of those set an appointment with you on the first call that you made?
Very few. If I were 10%? To ballpark, maybe.
Okay. So
maybe.
So your appointments are coming because you're following up consistently with these leads. If you talk to them today and don't set an appointment, you're going to call them tomorrow.
I mean, even if you get an appointment on the first call, you still have to follow up with the people to make sure that they're going to be there, to make sure that they remember that you're there. Because you're getting a random call and being like, yeah, I'll meet with you for 15 minutes on a Saturday. Then they hang up, go about their day, and forget about you.
Forget about you.
They don't remember you at all. So even if you look at it from that point of view, there are very few people that you don't have to follow up with to actually get in the door, to get in the appointment and do the presentation. Like, it is a follow-up game. It's what it is. And furthermore, just, I remember what I was going to say a little bit earlier about prospecting. So have you ever heard of the guy, the town was going to flood? This might be a little too personal. I don't know. Have you ever heard? I know. Have you ever heard of the story where the guy was in a flood and his neighbors were driving by and they're like, "What are you doing? The town's going to flood." So they come in a boat. He's on top of his house. And he's like, "God will save me." I prayed to God. Then some other neighbors passed by and said, "What are you doing? Get in the boat. There's a flood. God will save me." And then he dies. And he gets up into heaven. He's like, "What the heck, God? I thought you were going to save me." He's like, "Dude, I sent you 2 boats." and I think that is what it is with prospecting as well, is we're like, we want to do 50 deals this year. Why am I not doing 50 deals? What the heck? Where's my 50 deals? I manifested it, but they didn't put in the work to get the 50 deals. And what's funny about prospecting is if you want a stronger database, prospect to strangers and oddly enough show the universe that, hey, I need more business. I want more business. I'm working for more business. And the universe usually delivers. It gives you more. And it might not come directly from prospecting, but it will come from the efforts of it.
Yeah, there's this painting that Curtis, right, the president of REDX, he's got in his office. It's a painting of a guy shaking the trunk of an apple tree. And at the top of the tree, there's this one big apple that he's trying to get to fall. But all around him, there's fruit falling. And sometimes we can't forget that the effort that we put in today might not have a direct effect on the result that we're looking for. But the effort that we put in today still made fruit fall.
Yep.
Having that in mind, remembering that, like, hey, even if I didn't set an appointment today, the effort that I still put in was valid and a good use of my time, I think is a pretty solid mindset to have.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this. I had a really good coach one time say, stop climbing to the top of the tree and picking unripe fruit. It's not your job. Your job is to pick up low-hanging fruit. Because that's literally what I do. I'd call people and be like, hey, let's get into a bar fight. And I swear I'm going to get this appointment no matter what. And then I was miserable and prospecting was miserable. And when I realized there are people that are ready, willing, and able to do something right now, and that's who you focus on, prospecting is actually fun. Because if someone's not ready, I'm just like, oh, not quite ripe yet. I'll come back later.
So I love that we call it prospecting, because when you think of like prospecting for gold, it's such a great analogy, right? I sift through dirt and I look for gold nuggets. But how often do we see somebody who's sifting through dirt and they find a rock and they go, it's not a gold nugget, but I'm going to turn it into a gold nugget?
Yeah.
Right? It's this lie that we tell ourselves that we can turn a rock into gold if we just try hard enough. And we'd be better off making sure that when we come across a rock, we go, oh, it's not gold. Let me set it aside. So there's going to be times where you have clients or you come across a listing appointment and we want to go on that listing appointment. We want to take a listing, but then you get there and deep down you go, there's unrealistic expectations, or the market won't support what the homeowner's hoping to get out of this home. Deep down we go, I shouldn't take this listing because it's not going to be worth my time. We got to stop trying to turn rocks into gold and just go look for gold. Because like you said, there are people ready, willing, and able to transact. Yep. Our job as prospectors is simply to find those people and connect with them.
Yep. Spot on.
If you find a rock in your gold pan, doesn't matter what you do, you can't turn that rock into gold. Yep. But we try, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes we take on a client simply because they have a pulse, because it gives us hope that we can transact.
Oh, 100%.
And when in reality, it's a dud, and we should just throw it back in the river and keep panning for more gold.
Where, when, why?
Yeah, you got to know where, when, and why to
if you don't know those three things. Yeah.